Admiral stood on the bridge of the massive warship Divine Authority, watching the small blue planet grow larger on the Earth looked so ordinary, so weak. Just another backwater world filled with primitives who needed to learn their place in the galaxy. The crystal formations that made up his body hummed with satisfaction. This would be easy work. In his 300 years of service to the Hegemony Council, he had never met a species that refused to surrender. They all chose slavery over death. It was the smart choice. "Sir, we are approaching there," reported his communications officer. "Should we begin the standard protocol?" Nodded. Around him, 12 ships from different alien species formed a perfect formation. Each one represented a member of the Hegemony Council. Each one was beautiful in its own way, designed to inspire awe and fear. The crystalline ships of the gleamed like diamonds, the bioships of the pulsed with organic light. The metal constructs of the Empire moved like living sculptures. They had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years. No one challenged them anymore. "Humans of Earth," broadcast, his voice reaching every radio and television on the planet below. "I am Admiral of the Hegemony Council. Your species has expanded beyond your home system without permission. You have colonized 47 star systems that belong to the Hegemony. This cannot continue." On Earth, in the underground bunker beneath Geneva, Secretary General Maria Santos watched the alien ships through satellite feeds. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes, but her voice never shook when she spoke to the United Nations Emergency Council. "They're bigger than our intelligence reports suggested," she said quietly. "Each of those ships could destroy our entire space fleet." General Harrison, the military advisor, leaned forward. "Ma'am, we should consider their offer. Our children, our families." Santos held up her hand. "Let him finish." Continued his broadcast. "The Hegemony Council offers you the same choice we offer all new species. Submit to our authority. Withdraw from all colonies beyond your home system. Provide 40% of your population as tribute workers. In exchange, we will allow your species to survive under our protection." The alien admiral paused, letting his words sink in. "You have 72 of your hours to decide. Choose wisely. The hegemony has never been refused." The transmission ended. Silence filled the underground bunker. Around the table, the leaders of Earth's nations looked at each other with fear in their eyes. 40%, whispered the Chinese representative. "That's 3 billion people." "Slaves," added the European Union delegate. "They want 3 billion slaves." Santos stood up slowly. "Get me Admiral, tell him it's time." Far out in the belt, beyond where any alien sensors could detect them, Admiral Wei Ming received the coded message on his personal communicator. He was a tall man with silver hair and scars from the border wars of 2157. His uniform was black, like everything else around him. The Terran vengeance hung in space like a piece of the night itself. Its hull absorbed light instead of reflecting it. No running lights, no bright markings, nothing that would show up on enemy sensors. Around it, dozens of other ships waited in the darkness. They called themselves the Black Armada. "Sir, the activation codes have been confirmed," reported his executive officer, Commander Park. "All ships are ready." Nodded. They had been building these ships in secret for 15 years, ever since humanity's first contact with alien scouts. Every nation on Earth had contributed resources, technology, and their best people. They had prepared for this moment, hoping it would never come. But it had come. "Signal all ships," ordered. "Maintain stealth protocols. Wait for my command." Back on Earth, the emergency session continued. Some delegates wanted to negotiate. Others demanded immediate surrender. A few suggested trying to fight. "Fight with what?" General Harrison asked. "Our entire space navy is 20 ships. They have thousands." Santos listened to the arguments, but her mind was already made up. She thought about her, sleeping safely in their beds tonight. She thought about the colonies, families who had risked everything to build new homes among the stars. She thought about every human who had ever refused to bow to a bully. "The vote is called," she announced, "all in favor of surrendering to the hegemony." 7 hands rose. "All opposed?" 15 hands rose. Santos stood up. "The United Nations of Earth rejects the hegemony ultimatum. We will not surrender our colonies. We will not give them our people. We will not kneel." An hour later, Santos stood in the main broadcast studio in Geneva. Cameras from every nation pointed at her. She knew that her words would reach not just Earth, but every human colony, every space station, every ship in the outer darkness. "My fellow humans," she began, her voice steady and clear. "Today we received a message from the alien hegemony. They demanded our surrender. They wanted our children as slaves. They told us to kneel or die." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "Humanity has spent 500 years fighting for freedom. We fought kings and emperors. We fought fascists and tyrants. We broke chains and tore down walls. We reached for the stars because we refused to accept limits." Her voice grew stronger. "Today, aliens who have never known freedom came to our home. They expected us to bow. They expected us to give up everything we love. They were wrong." Santos stepped closer to the camera. "To the Hegemony Council, our answer is simple. We don't negotiate with slavers. We don't surrender to bullies. And we certainly don't kneel." She smiled, and for a moment she didn't look tired anymore. "Go to hell." The transmission cut to black. In space around Earth, Admiral stared at his communications screen in shock. In 300 years, no one had ever said no. No one had ever been so rude. "Sir," his officer asked nervously, "what are your orders?" His crystal body flared with anger. "Prepare the bombardment fleet. If they want to die for their pride, we will help them." But as his ships moved into attack position, none of them noticed the shadows moving in the darkness beyond Earth's moon. The Black Armada was coming home. Captain Sarah floated in zero gravity, watching Earth through the observation deck of the Terran Vengeance. The planet looked so peaceful from here, blue and white and beautiful. Hard to believe it was about to become a battlefield. "Captain," her communications officer called out, "Admiral wants to see you on the bridge." Sarah pushed off the wall and glided through the corridors of the massive ship. Everything around her was black walls, black floors. Even the lights were dimmed to prevent any glow from escaping into space. The Terran Vengeance was built to be invisible, a predator hiding in the darkness. She had been captain of this ship for 3 years, but sometimes it still amazed her. The Black Armada ships were nothing like the vessels other species built. Where aliens made their ships beautiful and bright, humans made theirs functional and hidden. Every surface absorbed sensor beams. Every system had 3 backups. Every weapon was designed to kill quickly and efficiently. Admiral was waiting for her on the bridge. Around them, dozens of officers worked at black consoles, monitoring the alien ships near Earth. The bridge was quiet, professional. These people knew they might die today, but they showed no fear. Sarah said quietly, "It's time. The aliens are moving into bombardment formation. They're going to attack Luna City first." Sarah nodded. Luna City housed 2 million civilians, miners, engineers, families who had never hurt anyone. The aliens wanted to kill them just to send a message. "What are our orders, sir?" Smiled grimly. "Show them what humans do to bullies." Across the solar system, other ships received the same message. The Black Armada had been waiting in the outer darkness for 15 years, but their crews had trained for much longer. Every pilot had flown combat missions against pirates. Every gunner had practiced on moving targets. Every captain had studied alien tactics and found their weaknesses. Commander James commanded the destroyer Shadow's Edge, hiding behind Luna's dark side. He was young for a ship captain, only 35, but he had fought in the asteroid belt wars and earned his nickname Ghost by attacking enemies who never saw him coming. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "3 alien cruisers are positioning themselves over Luna City. They're charging their main weapons." His jaw tightened. Those weapons could turn Luna City into space dust in seconds. 2 million people would die before they even knew what happened. "Load antimatter torpedoes," he ordered. "Prepare to on my mark." The Shadow's Edge was small compared to the alien ships, but it carried weapons that could crack a moon in half. Human military doctrine was simple. If you had to fight someone bigger than you, hit them first and hit them hard. Meanwhile, Admiral watched his bombardment fleet move into position. The humans had been silent since their rude rejection of his offer. Perhaps they were reconsidering. Perhaps they were afraid. "Admiral," his sensor operator reported, "we detect only minimal human military presence. A few patrol ships, some cargo vessels, nothing that could threaten us." Was pleased but not surprised. Primitive species rarely had strong military forces. They relied on diplomacy and hope instead of strength. It made them weak. "Begin the bombardment," he ordered. "Target their lunar colony first. When they see their people dying, they will surrender." The 3 hegemony cruisers powered up their plasma cannons. Each ship was beautiful in its own way, flowing curves, bright colors, elegant designs that showed the artistic nature of their builders. They had been created to inspire awe and demonstrate the superiority of alien civilization. They had not been created to fight someone who didn't care about elegance. Now whispered. The Shadow's Edge appeared from nowhere. One moment the space behind Luna was empty. The next moment a black ship was there, antimatter torpedoes already flying toward the alien fleet. The first cruiser exploded before its crew even knew they were under attack. The second managed to raise shields, but the torpedo punched through them like they were paper. The third alien ship tried to turn and fight, but its destroyer was already moving, sliding behind an asteroid where the cruiser's weapons couldn't reach. "What was that?" demanded, staring at his tactical display. 3 of his ships had just vanished, destroyed by an enemy that appeared from nowhere. "Unknown contact, sir. It's gone again. Our sensors can't track it." Before could respond, alerts started flashing across his bridge. Human ships were appearing throughout the solar system, attacking his formations and disappearing again. His beautiful fleet was being torn apart by shadows. Captain commanded the cruiser Dark Star, leading an attack on the alien supply ships near Mars. Her ship appeared behind a cargo freighter, destroyed 2 escort vessels with kinetic rounds, and vanished again before the aliens could return fire. "Target destroyed," her weapons officer reported. "No enemy survivors." "Good," said coldly. The aliens had come here to make slaves of her children. She felt no mercy for them. All across the solar system, the pattern repeated. Human ships would appear from nowhere, strike with overwhelming force, and disappear before the aliens could fight back. It wasn't a battle, it was a hunt. Admiral watched the tactical display from his command ship, feeling grim satisfaction as alien formations crumbled. The Black Armada had been designed for exactly this kind of warfare. While other species built ships for honor duels and formal battles, humans built ships to kill enemies and survive. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "the alien admiral is trying to regroup his forces near Earth. Should we pursue?" Nodded. "Signal all ships, form up on the Terran Vengeance. It's time to send our message." The massive dreadnought Terran Vengeance directly above the alien flagship. It was 3 times the size of the largest human ship the aliens had ever seen, bristling with weapons and armor. Its black hull seemed to absorb light, making it look like a hole in space itself. Admiral stared at the human ship in shock. Where had it come from? How had something so large remained hidden? "Sir, the human ship is hailing us," his communications officer said nervously. "Put them through." Admiral's face appeared on the. He was calm, professional, but his eyes held the cold fury of someone whose home had been threatened. "This is Admiral Wei Ming of the Terran Black Armada," he said quietly. "You came to our home system demanding slaves. You threatened to kill our families. You thought we would kneel." Leaned forward. "You were wrong. This is what happens when you threaten humanity. This is what happens when you demand our surrender. We don't kneel to anyone." The Terran Vengeance fired a single antimatter torpedo. The massive warhead struck the alien flagship's shields and tore through them like tissue paper. The beautiful alien ship, designed to inspire awe and fear, cracked down the middle and began venting atmosphere. "You have 10 minutes to evacuate your ships and leave this system," continued. "Any vessel still in human space after that time will be destroyed. Tell your Council Earth remembers everyone who threatens our children." Looked around his damaged bridge. Half his fleet was gone, destroyed by an enemy he had never seen coming. The remaining ships were already trying to escape, their crews terrified of the shadow ships that could appear anywhere. "Admiral," his officer said quietly, "what are your orders?" For the first time in his 300 years of service, Admiral gave an order he had never expected to give. "Signal the fleet. All ships retreat immediately, maximum speed." The surviving hegemony ships fled the solar system, leaving behind wreckage and the knowledge that something had changed in the galaxy. For the first time in 1,000 years, someone had said no to the Hegemony Council and made it stick. Admiral watched them go, then turned to his communications officer. "Signal Earth. Solar system is secure. All human colonies are to prepare for war. The real fight starts now." The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On the water world of, the enslaved whispered the impossible story in their underwater cities. On the desert planet, slaves dared to hope for the first time in generations. On 1,000 worlds, 1 billion enslaved beings heard the same incredible tale. Humans had defeated the hegemony. Supreme Counselor I paced back and forth in the great crystal chamber on the capital world of Dominion Prime. Around her, the 12 members of the Hegemony Council sat in stunned silence. The chamber had been built to inspire awe, with walls that reached toward the sky and thrones carved from precious stones. For 1,000 years, this room had been the center of galactic power. "Explain to me," I said, her voice sharp with anger, "how a primitive species destroyed half of Admiral's fleet." The crystal being who had once been so confident now flickered with dim, fearful light. "Supreme Counselor, they had ships we had never seen, technology we didn't know they possessed. They attacked from nowhere and vanished before we could respond." "Stealth technology," added Counselor of the machine race, "advanced beyond anything we have encountered. Our sensors could not track them." I stopped packing. A single species with stealth ships threatens our entire empire. "It gets worse," said Counselor of the bioships. "The humans are not remaining in their home system. Our intelligence networks report attacks on our supply lines, communication relays, and isolated outposts. They are hunting our forces." In the deep space between stars, Captain Sarah studied the tactical display in her ready room. The Terran Vengeance hung motionless in the void, completely invisible to enemy sensors. Around it, a dozen other Black Armada ships waited for their orders. "Captain," her first officer, Commander Torres, reported, "we've located the Hegemony Supply Depot at Station. 6 cargo ships, 2 escort cruisers, and a communication relay." Sarah nodded. Station supplied 12 Hegemony colonies with food, weapons, and replacement parts. Destroying it would force those colonies to pull back their forces to guard their own supply lines. "What about civilians?" she asked. "The station is automated. No life signs except the ship crews." That made the decision easy. Sarah had no problem killing alien soldiers who served a slave empire, but she tried to avoid harming innocent people when possible. Signal the fleet, begin the attack. The Black Armada ships approached station like ghosts in the night. The station's sensors showed nothing except empty space and distant stars. The alien crews went about their routine duties, loading cargo and preparing for the next supply run. They never knew what hit them. The Terran Vengeance appeared directly above the station and opened fire with every weapon it carried. Kinetic rounds tore through the station's hull while antimatter torpedoes vaporized the cargo ships. The two escort cruisers tried to fight back, but Commander's destroyer Shadow's Edge appeared behind them and ended the battle in seconds. Station destroyed, Torres reported. All enemy vessels eliminated. Sarah activated the long-range communication system. This message would reach every hegemony world in this sector, and from there it would spread across the galaxy. This is Captain Sarah of the Terran Black Armada. We destroyed your supply depot at station. We will continue destroying your stations, your ships, and your slave empire until you leave human space and free every enslaved species in the galaxy. She paused, knowing that her words would reach not just the hegemony leadership, but also the enslaved populations they controlled. To every enslaved being listening to this message, humanity remembers what it was like to fight for freedom. We will not stop until every chain is broken and every slave is free. The transmission ended, but the message had been sent. Across the galaxy, hope began to grow in places where it had been forgotten for centuries. On the mining world a group of enslaved lithoids heard the human message through a smuggled communicator. These rock-like beings had been forced to dig precious metals from their own planet for 300 years. Their leader, an ancient being called First Stone Turned, made a decision that would change everything. The humans show us that resistance is possible, he said to his followers. If they can fight the hegemony, so can we. That night, the mines fell silent as the lithoid workers went on strike for the first time in 3 centuries. Similar revolts began on other worlds. The enslaved on Verdant stopped harvesting food crops. The aquatic on the ocean worlds refused to process kelp farms. On 100 planets, enslaved beings who had never known hope suddenly found the courage to resist. The hegemony's response was swift and brutal. Punishment fleets moved to crush the rebellions, but they found themselves under constant attack by human forces. Black Armada ships seemed to appear whenever hegemony vessels tried to move, striking from the darkness and vanishing again. Admiral planned each operation from his command center deep inside an asteroid in the outer solar system. The room was filled with holographic displays showing the entire galaxy, with red marks indicating hegemony forces and blue marks showing human ships. The revolts are spreading faster than we expected, reported Intelligence Chief. 17 worlds have declared independence from the hegemony. The slave populations are fighting back. Smiled grimly. This was what humanity had hoped for when they planned their resistance. They couldn't fight the entire hegemony empire alone, but they could inspire others to fight for their own freedom. What about hegemony response? He asked. They're pulling forces back from the frontier to guard their core worlds, but every time they move a fleet, our ships attack them. Captain's squadron hit a troop transport yesterday. Captain destroyed a communications hub. The hegemony can't move without losing ships. Studied the display. The Black Armada now had 37 ships operating across 12 star systems. It wasn't a large force, but they were fighting smart, hitting the enemy where it hurt most. Signal all captains, he ordered. Phase 2 begins now. We're taking the fight to their core worlds. Back on Dominion Prime, the Hegemony Council faced a crisis unlike anything they had encountered. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Supply lines cut. Communication networks down. Slave revolts spreading like a plague. The situation is becoming critical, reported Military Coordinator N. We have lost contact with 37 outposts in the last week alone. Our forces report constant harassment by human ships that appear from nowhere. Supreme Counselor I felt fear for the first time in her long life. The hegemony had ruled through overwhelming force and the certainty that resistance was useless. But now, a single species had shown the galaxy that the Empire could bleed. "How many ships do we need to crush these humans?" she demanded. "Conservative estimates suggest a force of 300 vessels minimum," N replied. "But even then, their stealth technology makes them difficult targets." "Then gather 300 ships, gather 500, gather whatever you need. This rebellion ends now." As the hegemony began assembling the largest fleet in galactic history, Captain Sarah received new orders from Admiral. The Terran vengeance was to lead a strike force deep into enemy territory, targeting the industrial worlds that supplied the hegemony war machine. "Ma'am," Commander Torres said quietly, "this mission will take us farther from home than any human ship has ever gone. If something goes wrong, there will be no rescue." Sarah looked at the star charts showing their route through alien space. It was dangerous, perhaps suicidal. But that was what the Black Armada had been created for, to go where others couldn't and do what others wouldn't. "Signal the fleet," she said. "All ships prepare for deep penetration raid. We're going to show the hegemony what happens when you threaten human children." The Terran vengeance and 6 escort vessels disappeared into hyperspace, heading for the heart of the alien empire. Behind them, Earth's children prepared for the real war that was coming. Across the galaxy, enslaved beings looked up at alien skis and whispered the name that had become a symbol of hope: humanity. The Black Armada was coming. Captain Sarah stood in the cargo bay of the Terran Vengeance, looking at the strange device her engineers had built. It was a modified communication array, designed to broadcast on every frequency the hegemony used. But this wasn't meant to send messages. It was meant to send fear. "Will it work?" she asked Chief Engineer Martinez. The grizzled old woman grinned. "Captain, when we're done with this, every alien ship in 100 light years is going to know exactly who's hunting them." The Terran Vengeance and its escort ships hung in space near the industrial world of Forge Prime. Below them, massive factories produced weapons, ships, and equipment for the hegemony war machine. The planet's orbital shipyards were building new vessels to replace the ones humanity had destroyed. Sarah had come here to send a message. "All ships begin the attack," she ordered. The Black Armada ships dropped their stealth and opened fire. The orbital shipyards exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Half-completed alien warships broke apart and fell toward the planet below. The factories on the surface sent up defensive fire, but the human ships were already moving, striking and vanishing like deadly shadows. When the attack was over, Forge Prime's industrial capacity had been cut in half. But that wasn't the real purpose of the mission. Sarah activated the communication array. Her message would reach every hegemony ship, station, and world in the sector. "This is Captain Sarah of the Terran Black Armada. We destroyed your shipyards at Forge Prime. We killed your workers and smashed your factories. We are coming for all of you." She paused, her voice growing colder. "You came to our home expecting slaves. Instead, you found predators. We are hunting you now, and we will not stop until your empire burns. We are the darkness between the stars. We are the death that comes without warning. We are humanity, and we do not forgive." The transmission ended, but the terror had just begun. Across hegemony space, alien crews huddled around their communication equipment, listening to reports of human attacks. The pattern was always the same: ships appearing from nowhere, devastating alien forces, and vanishing before help could arrive. The humans seemed to be everywhere at once, striking at random targets with deadly precision. Commander led a squadron of destroyers deep into enemy territory, hunting supply convoys. Her ships had been operating behind enemy lines for 3 weeks, and she had learned to think like a predator. Contact on long-range sensors, her tactical officer reported. Hegemony convoy, 12 cargo ships with 4 escort cruisers. Studied the tactical display. The convoy was carrying medical supplies to a hegemony garrison world. Those supplies would keep alien soldiers healthy and ready to fight against human colonies. Attack formation, she ordered. Hit the escorts first, then the cargo ships. The human destroyers approached from the shadow of a gas giant, invisible to enemy sensors. They struck without warning, antimatter torpedoes tearing through alien shields and hulls. The escort cruisers never had a chance to fight back. "This is commander of the Terran Black Armada," she broadcast as the cargo ships burned. "Your convoy has been destroyed. Your soldiers will go without medical supplies. This is what happens when you serve a slave empire." Similar attacks happened throughout hegemony space. Captain's cruiser squadron destroyed a communication relay in the Vega system. Commander Park's destroyers eliminated a fuel depot near. Captain's ships hit a troop transport carrying reinforcements to a garrison world. Each attack was accompanied by the same terrifying message: "This is the Terran Black Armada. We are coming." On the capital world of Dominion Prime, Supreme Counselor I watched holographic displays showing the spreading chaos. Red symbols marked destroyed facilities, lost convoys, and broken communication networks. The humans were systematically tearing apart the Empire's infrastructure. "How many ships have we lost this week?" she asked. Military Coordinator N's mechanical voice was grim. 47 vessels destroyed, 18 more heavily damaged. Supply lines to 16 garrison worlds have been cut. Communication with the outer territories has been reduced by 60%. I felt her crystalline body dim with despair. A single species is destroying our empire. "Not just humans," reported Intelligence Chief. "The enslaved populations are growing bolder. We have confirmed revolts on 83 worlds. Some have declared complete independence." On the water world the enslaved had taken control of their underwater cities and were refusing to process food crops for their alien masters. Their leader, an ancient being called Deep Current Flows, had sent a message to the hegemony governor. "We have heard the human voices calling across the void," the message said. "They show us that chains can be broken. We will serve the hegemony no longer." Similar declarations came from dozens of worlds. The rock beings had collapsed the main mining shafts, making it impossible to extract precious metals. The plant creatures of Verdant had poisoned the crops they were forced to grow. The gas dwellers of Nimbus had shut down the atmospheric processors that provided breathable air for alien visitors. Each rebellion was inspired by the same thing: the knowledge that humans had fought the hegemony and won. Admiral received reports of the spreading revolts from his command center in the asteroid belt. The holographic display showed friendly blue markers appearing throughout the galaxy as enslaved species declared their independence. "Sir," Intelligence Chief reported, "we're receiving messages from rebel leaders requesting military support. They want human ships to help defend their worlds." Studied the display thoughtfully. The Black Armada was already spread thin, operating across dozens of star systems. But these rebellions were exactly what humanity had hoped to achieve. "Send a message to all rebel worlds," he ordered. "Tell them we cannot provide ships, but we can provide something better. We can provide hope." He activated the long-range communication array, sending his words to every enslaved world in the galaxy. "This is Admiral Wei Ming of the Terran Black Armada. To every enslaved being fighting for freedom, we cannot be everywhere at once, but we carry your cause in our hearts. Fight with whatever weapons you have. Hide in whatever shadows you can find. Make your oppressors pay for every day they try to keep you in chains." His voice grew stronger. "Remember, this freedom is not something that can be given to you. It must be taken. We humans learned this truth long ago, and now we share it with the galaxy. The hegemony fears you now because they know their power depends on your submission. Take away that submission, and their empire crumbles. The message spread across the galaxy, carried by hidden transmitters and whispered between enslaved beings who had never dared to dream of freedom. But the hegemony was not defenseless. Supreme Counselor I had made her decision. If the humans wanted a war, she would give them a war they could never win. "Gather the Grand Armada," she commanded. "Every ship, every warrior, every weapon we possess. We will crush these humans so completely that no species will ever dare challenge us again." The order went out across hegemony space. From 12 different species came their most powerful warships, crystal battleships from the, living bioships from the, massive metal constructs from the machine races. Each ship was beautiful, elegant, and deadly. In 3 months, the largest fleet in galactic history would gather at the hegemony capital. Over 500 ships crewed by the finest warriors in the galaxy. It would be enough to destroy every human world and end this rebellion forever. But the humans were not idle. Captain Sarah received new orders from Admiral as the Terran Vengeance completed another raid deep in enemy territory. "Priority message from Earth Command," her communications officer reported. "All Black Armada ships are ordered to return to human space immediately." Sarah read the orders and felt her blood run cold. The hegemony was assembling a massive fleet for a final assault on Earth. The Black Armada would have to return home to defend humanities. But there was something else in the orders. A final mission that would require everything the Black Armada had learned about fighting the hegemony. "Set course for home," Sarah ordered. "Maximum speed." As the Terran Vengeance jumped into hyperspace, its captain wondered if they would reach Earth in time. The greatest battle in galactic history was coming, and humanity would either win their freedom or die fighting for it. Behind them, the enslaved populations of 1,000 worlds prepared for their own battles. The humans had shown them that resistance was possible. Now they would show the galaxy that freedom could not be stopped. The hunt was no longer one-sided. Across the galaxy, predators and prey were changing roles, and the hegemony empire was learning what it meant to be afraid. The Nexus Prime system was the heart of the hegemony empire. At its center, a massive space station orbited a neutron star, connected by energy bridges to dozens of smaller platforms. This was where the Hegemony Council ruled from, where their laws were made, where their armies were commanded. It was also where Admiral had decided the war would end. "Sir, long-range sensors confirm enemy fleet composition," reported Intelligence Chief from the bridge of the Terran Vengeance. 537 ships from 12 different species, every major warship the hegemony possesses. Studied the tactical display showing the massive alien fleet arranged in perfect formation around Nexus Prime. The station itself was protected by energy shields that could stop a supernova. The surrounding ships included crystal battleships larger than human cities, bioships that could regenerate from almost any damage, and machine vessels bristling with weapons. "Our forces?" he asked quietly. 43 ships of the Black Armada," replied. "All captains report ready for battle." The odds were impossible. 12 alien ships for every human vessel, and the enemy had better shields, more weapons, and defensive positions. Any sane military commander would retreat and look for a better opportunity. But Admiral was not just any military commander. He was human, and humans had a long tradition of fighting impossible battles. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Begin Operation Prometheus." Captain Sarah received the signal on the Terran Vengeance and felt her heart grow heavy. She knew what Operation Prometheus meant. It was the plan they had hoped never to use, a final gambit that would either end the war or destroy the Black Armada completely. "All hands, this is the captain," she announced over the ship's communication system. Today, we face the largest fleet in galactic history. Today, we fight for the freedom of every enslaved being in the galaxy. Today, we show the universe what humans do when our backs are against the wall." She paused, thinking of her family back on Earth, of the children who would grow up free if this mission succeeded. "We are the Terran Black Armada. We do not surrender, we do not retreat, we do not kneel. All ships attack formation." The human fleet approached Nexus Prime in 3 waves, just as hegemony military doctrine predicted they would. The aliens were ready for them. The first wave consisted of 12 destroyers led by Commander. They charged directly at the enemy formation, weapons blazing. The hegemony ships opened fire, and space filled with energy beams and missile trails. The human ships fought bravely, but they were outnumbered 10 to 1. One by one, the destroyers died. The Shadow's Edge lasted the longest, ship twisting and dodging between alien fire until a crystal battleship's main gun finally found its target. The destroyer exploded in a brilliant flash of light. "First wave eliminated," reported the hegemony tactical coordinator to Supreme Counselor I. "Human losses total." The second wave came in 20 minutes later, 15 cruisers led by Captain. They tried to break through the alien lines using speed and stealth, but the hegemony was ready for them. Energy webs caught the human ships, and concentrated fire tore them apart. "Second wave destroyed," the tactical coordinator reported. "No human survivors detected." I felt satisfaction flow through her crystalline body. The humans had fought with typical primitive fury, but courage could not overcome superior numbers and technology. The rebellion was finally over. "What about their remaining forces?" she asked. "Long-range sensors detect 16 human ships approaching. The rest of their fleet is maintaining distance." I nodded. The surviving humans would either retreat or die uselessly. Either way, the hegemony had won. But the third wave was different. Led by Admiral's flagship Earth's Pride, the remaining Black Armada ships approached slowly, broadcasting on all frequencies. "This is Admiral Wei Ming of the Terran Black Armada." His voice reached every ship in both fleets. "Today ends 1,000 years of slavery. Today the hegemony dies." The human ships attacked with desperate fury, but they were even more outnumbered than the previous waves. The aliens concentrated their fire, and one by one the human vessels exploded or went silent. But Admiral had one more surprise. Hidden in the wreckage of the first wave, disguised as debris from Commander's destroyed destroyer, Captain Sarah's Terran Vengeance drifted undetected toward the neutron star at the center of the system. The massive dreadnought had been playing dead for 2 hours, its crew breathing recycled air, and hoping their disguise would hold. "Captain," Chief Engineer Martinez whispered, "we're in position. Antimatter charges are ready." Sarah looked at the tactical display showing the neutron star's powerful magnetic field. The plan was simple in theory: detonate the ship's entire antimatter arsenal near the star's magnetosphere, and create a gravitational pulse that would tear apart everything in the system. It was also completely insane. No one had ever tried to weaponize a neutron star before. The calculations could be wrong. The explosion might not be strong enough. The pulse might destroy the Terran Vengeance before it could affect the enemy fleet. But it was humanity's only chance. "All hands," Sarah announced. "This is Captain. In 60 seconds, we're going to do something that's never been done before. We're going to turn a star into a weapon." She activated the ship's main communication array, broadcasting to every world in the galaxy. "To every human listening, we came here to end a war that should never have started. To every enslaved being who dreams of freedom, we fight for you. To the Hegemony Council, you wanted us to kneel. Instead, you get to watch your empire burn." She turned to her weapons officer. "Fire." The Terran Vengeance launched every antimatter torpedo it carried directly into the neutron star's magnetosphere. The explosions were invisible to the naked eye, but the effect was immediate. The star's magnetic field fluctuated wildly, and gravitational waves began rippling outward at the speed of light. "What was that?" demanded Supreme Counselor I as alarms began sounding throughout her flagship. "Unknown energy source near the neutron star," her science officer reported. "Gravitational distortion increasing rapidly." The pulse hit the outer edge of the hegemony fleet first. Smaller ships simply vanished, torn apart by forces beyond comprehension. Larger vessels cracked and split as gravitational waves twisted their hulls into impossible shapes. The beautiful formations that had seemed so powerful moments before scattered like leaves in a hurricane. Nexus Prime's energy shields, designed to stop normal weapons, provided no protection against a weaponized star. The massive station broke apart, its pieces falling into the neutron star's gravity well. With it died the Hegemony Council and 1,000 years of galactic tyranny. Captain Sarah watched the destruction from the bridge of her dying ship. The gravitational pulse had damaged the Terran vengeance beyond repair, but it had done its job. Around them, the Hegemony's Grand Armada was being torn to pieces by cosmic forces. "Ma'am," Commander Tor said quietly, "we're receiving surrender signals from surviving alien ships." Sarah smiled. "Signal Admiral, tell him Nexus Prime is destroyed. The Hegemony Council is dead. The war is over." 3 days later, Admiral stood in the conference room of the rebuilt United Nations building in Geneva. Around the table sat representatives from 47 species, former slaves who were now free beings with their own governments and their own futures. The surrender terms had been simple: complete withdrawal of all hegemony forces from enslaved worlds, dissolution of the hegemony empire, reparations for 1,000 years of oppression. Most importantly, a guarantee that no species would ever again be forced into slavery. "Admiral," asked Ambassador Deep Current Flows of the Liberated, "what will humanity do now that the war is over?" Looked out the window at the blue sky of Earth. The Black Armada had paid a terrible price for victory: 39 ships lost, thousands of brave men and women dead. But they had achieved something impossible. They had freed an entire galaxy. "We go home," he said simply. "We rebuild. We remember our friends who didn't make it back, and we make sure this never happens again." The ambassador nodded thoughtfully. "The galaxy owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid." "The galaxy owes humanity nothing," replied. "Freedom is not something one species gives to another. It's something every being has to claim for themselves. We just showed you that it was possible." 6 months later, Captain walked through the memorial garden that had been built in orbit around Earth. Thousands of names were carved into the black stone wall, every human who had died fighting the hegemony. At the center stood a simple inscription. They came expecting slaves. Instead, they found humans. But the memorial was not just for the human dead. Representatives from dozens of species had added their own monuments, honoring the enslaved beings who had fought for their own freedom. The garden had become a symbol of hope for the new galaxy that was being born. From across the solar system, ships arrived daily, not warships this time, but cargo vessels and passenger transports. Former slave species were establishing embassies on Earth, trade agreements were being negotiated, and cultural exchanges were beginning. The galaxy was learning what humans had known for centuries: that diversity was strength, that freedom was precious, and that no one had the right to make others kneel. In the outer system, construction crews worked on new ships, not predators this time, but guardians. The Black Armada had been disbanded, its mission complete. The new Terran fleet would focus on exploration, trade protection, and helping other species defend their newfound freedom. But the ships still wore black hulls, and their crews still remembered the lesson they had learned in the dark years of war. Sometimes the only way to preserve peace was to be very, very good at war. Admiral, now retired to a small farm in Iowa, would sometimes look up at the stars and remember the friends who had died to make this new galaxy possible. He would think about Captain Sarah, who had given her life to weaponize a star. He would remember Commander, who had died protecting Luna City. He would honor the thousands of others who had chosen to fight rather than kneel. And sometimes, on clear nights, he would whisper the words that had become humanity's gift to the galaxy. "We do not kneel." The stars, free and bright in the darkness, seemed to whisper back in 1,000 different voices. "Neither do we."